time for some haunted house recommendations. Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zach with Zacks Books and welcome back to Zocktober. Today we have got haunted house book recommendations for you. I've got 5 of them here. Haunted house is a trope that Darcy Coates tackles a lot, but I only wanted to pick one. And besides her, there's really not a whole lot of haunted house books that I have tackled and read. We will have the 5 that I am going to mention linked down below. I do have one that is on the fence haunted house, but I'm going to include it because I'm just going to include it. Otherwise, don't forget to check out the other stuff down below. Pango Books, Danielle's channel, podcast. We did hit 4,000 subbies, so there is a giveaway going on. All the details are in the video I did with Danielle a couple videos back, so check that out. And yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let's get into the list. Alright, so the first one up is the one that is somewhat on the fence, but I am including it just because it is, in the book itself, it kind of gets mentioned that it kind of feels like a haunted house in a sense, and it kind of gives off the vibes. Salem's Lot, Stephen King. So the Marston House is the house I'm referring to. And I would definitely say that it has got some very, very haunted aspects to it, so that's why I'm including it on this list. Salem's Lot, otherwise, is about pretty much this town that gets overrun by a vampire. And it's Stephen King's take on vampires and stuff like that. It's, yeah, the Marston House, yes. It's a really solid book. I reread it last October. I gave it 5 stars. I think it did end up cracking my top 10. I mean, one of the rereads I just did this year, 1000% is cracking the top 10 now. So definitely have to rework my top 10. The problem is I like Stephen King books a lot, and so I basically need to make 2 top 10s instead of top 20. So top 10 part 1, top 10 part 2. But yeah, Salem's Lot, I did really enjoy the book. Again, it's more about vampires than haunted house, but the Marston House itself just kind of gives off such a vibe that it is a haunted house. But I mean, yeah, we're following this guy. He's a writer, and he comes back to his town of Salem's Lot, and pretty much he's trying to write a book about the Marston House, the house he was part of. He went into one time and had a very traumatic experience, and yeah, that house is now owned by basically a vampire. So yeah, very cool stuff. Highly would recommend this. Salem's Lot, Stephen King. Alright, next up, obvious choice, the Amityville Horror, Jay Anson. It's a classic. You know the story. It's actually a real life event too, which is also what makes this really eerie and creepy. But yeah, I mean, you're following I think it's the Lutz family, and basically they buy this house, and the house itself looks absolutely stunning. And basically it's possessed by a demon, and pretty much there's a prequel movie called the Amityville 2. And pretty much you find out and you discover what traumatic thing happened in the house, and basically it's this evil spirit told the son to murder the family. He does so, and now the Lutz family moves in, and apparently there's sequels to this book where apparently the demon latched itself to the Lutz family and it followed them along. I do need to read the second one of these, and the third one. But Amityville Horror, it's such a classic book. It's really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and very solid book. Highly recommend it. The Amityville Horror by Jay Anson. Alright, next up is my Darcy Coates pick with this video. Like I said, she's notorious for haunted house stuff, and she's got a lot of options to pick from. I will say it's been a little while since I read this one, but what I do remember, it was a very solid book, and I'm picking The Haunting of Gillespie House. So this book, if I remember, I gave it 5 stars. It's about this girl named Ellie, and she basically is taking over. She's minding the Gillespie property for a while. I think the woman, like the wife, is like not really happy about it because like, there's like weird stuff that happens. And the first night, like it just starts going like immediately, and like lots of weird things are happening. There's noises in the walls. There's scratches going on. There's all this weird hibby-jibby stuff going on, and she like starts digging deeper into the Gillespie like past, and like I want to say this is the one with like a giant cemetery. Yeah, there's a giant cemetery and there's a graveyard with a bunch of like the Gillespie family people in the back, and you find out that the main like Gillespie dude, like Mr. Gillespie, like the first person who like found the property, was like a very bad person. And yeah, very solid story. I would highly recommend this book. It was pretty solid, and I would definitely say give this one a read if you're going to read a Darcy Coates haunted house book. It's a bit shorter. It's not a super long one, but it was really good. So there you have The Haunting of Gillespie House by Darcy Coates. All right, this next one, it's a book I read, I don't know, it was maybe a couple years ago. It was a release that I was highly anticipating, and I read it, and it was good. It was not like magnificent, but it's definitely a solid haunted house book. And that is Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. So I read this. So basically the premise of this book is you're following, I want to say it's 4 authors who are like haunted house people. They're like 4 haunted house authors, and what they do is they spend the night in this haunted house, and just like crap does not go right. It starts hitting the fan. I remember it started out as just like one person was supposed to do it, and then they're like, oh, we can get more authors to probably do this, so let's get more of them. And it does not go well for them. So there's a lot to keep up with towards the end. Otherwise, it was a pretty solid story, and I liked how, pretty much like the authors are kind of like bashing there's like a part where I believe they're like bashing each other's work and stuff like that, and I thought that was kind of funny to like nitpick at each other. So but I would definitely say this is one to read. It is a pretty solid story. Yeah, Kill Creek, Scott Thomas. Alright, next one up, or I should say the last one up, is one that I would say if you've seen my recent reads video for October, I talked about this book. It was also in another video this month where it was like classic horror books I need to read, and I finally did, and I had some mixed opinions on it. And that is Hell House by Richard Matheson. So I put it on the recommendation because it is a classic haunted house book. It is a book that if you're going to read haunted house, I would recommend reading it. But go into it knowing that there's some things in here that are a little bit off. If you saw my recent reads video, you know the big one is the random, like, I don't know how I want to call it, but like the ghosts are like horny is how I would probably put it. Obviously there's other things going on in this book, but that was one of the main things that stood out to me. I ended up giving this 3 stars. It was not a terrible experience. I just thought that those portions of the weird ghosts like wanting to get it on constantly was just kind of a bit off-putting for me. But I don't want to say maybe it'll work for you, but maybe it'll work for you. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this. It is a classic. It is a good story and a good premise. And I just, just that stuff is just weird to, like, especially with a haunted house. I just don't want to hear that. Like, I'm trying to be scared, not like, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I would say this book, definitely a classic. Would definitely check it out. Hell House, Richard Matheson. Alright, so these are the 5 haunted house books I would recommend. I definitely need to read some more because I got to gear up for next year's episode of this. But yeah, we'll have them linked down below. Whatever we can link down below will be down below. And yeah, what are some haunted house books you would recommend for me? Make sure you let me know in the comments. And again, down below we also have got all the stuff, podcast, Pango Book, Danielle's channel, Instagram, all that fun stuff is down there. But yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys in tomorrow's episode of Zocktober. Later.